Today we're announcing the kickoff of a campaign to underwrite the conservation of our First Lady's gowns collection and to renovate the gallery in which they are displayed. The collection is significant not only because of the role of Arkansas First Ladies in our political history, but also because it is the largest such collection in the country and the most popular exhibit year in and year out that we have. Special thanks go to Gay White and Lana Bethune and Sammy Johnston, who, on behalf of the Old State House Museum Associates, our private nonprofit friends group, have led the effort to preserve this irreplaceable part of Arkansas history. And now it's my pleasure to introduce the Director of the Department of Arkansas Heritage, Stacy Hurst.
Thank you so much. Well, thank you all for coming, and this is just very exciting. I mean, how appropriate and exciting it is to have these Arkansas treasures that are up here with me now. Truly treasures of our state, and we are so excited that they have come together to help raise money to celebrate and showcase these First Ladies' gowns. As Bill mentioned, it is the most popular exhibit at the Old State House. And it is just so wonderful for me to be here in this historic building and know that these beautiful gowns will be showcased, taken care of, and available for the public for many, many more years to come. I have the great honor of being able to formally introduce and recognize all of our First Ladies that are in attendance today. First Lady Barbara Pryor, First Lady Gay White, First Lady Betty Tucker, First Lady Janet Huckabee, First Lady Ginger Beebe, and the college sweetheart of my boss, First Lady Susan Hutchinson. Mrs. Hutchinson, would you please come to the podium and share some thoughts? Thank you.
Thank you. This is really, really exciting, and I remember visiting the Old State House Museum and being enamored with the First Lady's gowns. I've often said that when you meet a man who's married, you really haven't met the whole man until you've met his wife. And I think that's true, especially in politics, because it is a team effort, and each one of us have our stories of what it meant to us to stand there by their side or in their shadow. But we were, and still are, the wind beneath their wings. So in having this gown presentation exhibit here in the State House Museum, it's more than a nod to the ladies that really helped shape and fine-tune the men that were elected as governor. But it helps explain an era, it helps explain a style, it helps explain the woman who was there all along beside that gentleman who was elected and had the favor of the people of Arkansas. So I'm very thrilled that we're doing this. I know what it meant to me, inauguration night and the ballroom, and I felt like Princess Di. I really did. It was the most beautiful, gorgeous gown I'll ever wear in my whole life, and I felt super special in it. And to have that shared with the people of Arkansas and the public at large, and any little girl that sees that and can dream and wear it as the governor, not just her own inaugural ball, but the inaugural ball perhaps for her own election as governor. So it's with great pleasure I introduce to you my immediate predecessor, Ginger Beebe, who graced the House for 8 years.
Thank you, Susan, and thank all of you for being here. You know, our forebears have richly preserved the history here at the Old State House, and this is an awesome facility. You know, often I greeted visitors as they toured the governor's mansion, and I always, Joellen, always recommended to come to the old State House. Of course, obviously, in particular, was the First Lady's exhibit. And if some of you have seen my gown, you've also seen that pair of tennis shoes that are with my gown. And I will say that those people that maybe came here first and then came to the governor's mansion, they were really laughing about those tennis shoes. I had broken my foot after the election, and so I wore tennis shoes with my ball gown, which makes an interesting exhibit. You know, the 8 years I lived in the governor's mansion, my staff and I really worked hard to preserve the history of the mansion. And that's what the staff here has done at the old State House. You have preserved, you've highlighted, and you continually maintain Arkansas history. And we thank you for that. Now, it's my pleasure to welcome Janet Huckabee, who spearheaded the creation of the Grand Hall to the Governor's Mansion, which all Arkansans should be grateful. Thousands of visitors enjoy coming to the Governor's Mansion, or what I call the People's House. Please welcome Janet.
Thank you, Jennifer. Can y'all hear me? I should have gone last so I could have, or got a stool and knelt down on it. Stacy could have called on those treasures old antiques or relics, so it wasn't that bad. So treasures may be the best thing. I would like to think of them as jewels. So First Ladies, I'm going to call us jewels instead. I think maybe the governors call us arm candy at times, but we don't always listen to what they have to say anyway, so we can do what we want with these jewels. I do appreciate what the old State House is doing. We all love to come through and look at the things. Not only are they showing and displaying the gowns, but they've added family items to the displays, and I think that's really special to kind of get a peek into some of the families and what they have and what they're displaying. I was here when they were redoing the old State House, and I was First Lady at the time, and got to kind of watch that happen, and it was very interesting to see when you peel back some of the, the walls and what was, and floors and what was behind all that. And the team here have just done a marvelous job, and this is a beautiful building and so much history. And I do appreciate what they have done. I like to think that all the women here and all the ones that came before us have just taken a piece of thread, and their color might have been red and others might have been purple and yellow, and they've just woven that thread into a big tapestry. And each thread tells a story, and once the tapestry is finished, it's just a beautiful piece of history, and it all tells a story. And that's what's unique about tapestries. You don't really know until it's all finished what that story or what that tapestry is going to look like. And I think we have a bunch of different stories about Arkansas, and it's woven by every family that lives in the Governor's Mansion and every First Lady that touches the lives of all Arkansans that come this way. So I want to thank all of our First Ladies and the tapestry that they're weaving and have woven as a part of Arkansas history. And I'm going to introduce First Lady Betty Tucker. I got to travel to Vietnam, Cambodia, and Thailand with her, and we were weaving yet another piece of tapestry with the Heifer Project. And we got to do some things that I think neither one of us thought we should have been doing, but we had a wonderful time, and probably would go again tomorrow if I had the opportunity. So, First Lady Betty Tucker.
Thank you. There are many pleasures associated with being First Lady, getting to travel this state, getting to meet all of the wonderful people. One of the first pleasures is getting to choose your inaugural gown. You want it to be a very special dress, but you want it to be appropriate for the time. And I wanted it to be a dress that was made by an Arkansan. So I engaged Helen Benton, who at that time lived in Helena, and was designing ball gowns for boutique shops across the country to design my dress. We had a terrific time doing it, and it was lovely. It had a black velvet bodice and a beautiful silk tapestry skirt. I agree. I felt like a princess that night. It is by far the prettiest dress that I've ever worn, and it was a perfect dress for a cold, frigid January night. I have loved coming back here to see it, but more than anything else, I have loved bringing my grandchildren to see it. And without the work that you do here at the Old State House, we would not have the preservation of the many different objects, not only dresses, but the other parts of our history. So I want to say a special thank you to all of you for making this place possible. I have been to very few museums of this quality anywhere in the world. Thank you to all of you. And it's my pleasure to introduce Gay White. Gay was the governor's wife from 81 to 83. She was the governor. We just didn't know it. And she deserves a special thank you because she is an integral part of making this event happen. Thank you, Gay.
Thank you, Betty. Well, it's a real honor to be here today in the presence of these women. I have watched each of them from afar and admired them for their uniqueness in the way they have carried out their responsibilities as First Lady. And I have grown very fond of each one of them as I've gotten to know them personally. Well, we're all excited to be here, and I think I speak on behalf of each one. This Old State House houses a part of our life and a part of our history. And I just, I think each person here does feel a sense of responsibility to help. And specifically, obviously, we're here because we are having a large fundraiser for the First Lady's inaugural gown exhibit. And one of the reasons that we really need to fund this project is, and I'll just give you an example. When I had my special dress, I had it designed by a young Arkansas designer, and I wanted it to be symbolic of the state, but I also wanted my husband to like me in it, And I don't think it had anything to do with our name, but Frank just always loved me to wear white. I don't know, he just liked me in it. And so I knew I wanted a white dress, and then just after thinking about things that were symbolic of Arkansas, I thought, well, we are the diamond state, and that makes us unique in the United States. We're the only one. So I had a beaded diamond motif. No, they weren't real diamonds, but they looked like diamonds. Otherwise, I wouldn't have given it to the Old State House. But it does have a diamond design. Well, don't think I need to tell you that beading is heavy on a dress. And so thankfully, the night I wore it at Frank's inauguration, it held up great. It was wonderful. I, like everybody else, felt like Cinderella. And then, but I did keep my dress to wear one other time when Frank and I went to the presidential inauguration that year. And I wore it to the White House for the first dinner that we went to at the White House. Well, we got dressed that evening to go, and after we had gotten in the car to be taken to the White House, I realized that some of the beading on the shoulder of my dress had come loose. And, talk about hanging chads, well, I had hanging beads. And so I have no idea how it happened, but I just so happened to have one of those little Delta sewing kits in my purse. And I handed it to Frank, and I said, honey, you're going to have to stitch me up. So in the back seat of the car, he stitched the beading on me. And I went to the White House. But that just highlights the need for these special dresses. Mine is 34 years old now, and many of the dresses are much, much older. And the textiles, you know, they do begin to weaken, and the beading is heavy, and it begins to weigh on the fabric. So we are refurbishing several of the gowns, and it's not cheap, like when Frank did it in the back seat of the car. We have to send it off to a specialized textile facility. I believe it's in Indiana, I think. And it's very, very expensive. So we, as First Ladies, have joined together. We are going to be appearing again in October, on October the 6th, for a lunch on the lawn at the Governor's Mansion. And the whole purpose of that particular fundraiser is to raise money to go towards the refurbishing of the dresses, and also the new casing that we will need to properly store the dresses. So anyway, I appreciate these women. They're all so busy. I know, because I'm trying to herd them. And I just so appreciate their time to be part of this project. So thank you. And now I get to introduce my longtime friend, former First Lady Barbara Pryor.
Thank you. I'm still thinking about Frank White sewing up that dress. Those of you who knew Frank and loved him as we did, that's quite a picture. Yeah. And let me be the first to point out that this is my dress, the emerald green, still classically beautiful. Certainly the most beautiful dress I ever had, and I did wear it only once. I also, it doesn't show, but I had Joan Crawford platform sandals to wear with it. Dyed the same color, emerald green, and I was movie star, totally. Anyway, it's a pleasure to be here today. Thank you, Bill Gatewood, who we've known since he was a child. You're doing a wonderful job. Joellen Mack, you're a special, wonderful person, and we've known her for many years. Stacy Hirsch, our new leader in this field, and especially you, Gay White, for being the driving force for this event. The old State House is an Arkansas treasure. We all are so thrilled to be a part of our heritage, our history, and helping to keep that spirit alive, to protect the memory of our past, and to remember other First Ladies. Today, I'd like to name them, some of the First Ladies who are not here with us. Anne McMath, Margaret Cherry, Alta Faubus, Jeanette Rockefeller, Betty Bumpers, my dearest friend and longtime mentor, Hillary Clinton, and all of us here today who are so pleased to be a part of this First Lady's gowns preservation. All of these First Ladies, the ones that came before and these that are here now, played a significant role in our state's history and culture. Today, we salute them. And to Susan Hutchinson, our present First Lady, we say, we've all been in your shoes, and we stand by you and wish you the very, very best.
Thank you all very much. Joellen Mack, the museum's longtime curator, will now very briefly give us a history of the gowns exhibit and answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Bill. And once again, I want to thank the First Ladies. I've worked with all of you for many, many years, and I look forward to working with Susan Hutchinson. The history of the First Lady's gown exhibit began in 1943 at a meeting of the Arkansas Pioneers Association in 1943. And some of the First Ladies were at that meeting, and they got the idea to start preserving the First Ladies' gowns. And by 1955, they had saved 19 gowns and started the exhibit. They sent off the gowns to a company in New Jersey called LaBouffe. And at that time, they believed they were doing the right thing by using a chemical on the gowns. And at the time, it was the correct thing. The company donated their time and the chemical. All they did was charge for postage. So at the time, all they did was pay $30 per gown. And when we think of what it costs today to conserve each gown, we're just amazed. But in November 16th, 1955, the First Ladies Gallery opened. They sealed the cases of these 19 gowns, and the cases were not reopened until 34 years later. And that was when the gowns moved to the first floor. It remained there until the 1990s, and when the museum had to close for emergency restoration of in 1996 of the building, we took the gowns out and had most of them conserved again. Of course, we used the latest technology then, and each time we conserve, we realize what needs to be done, and times and things change of conservation. Last year, I was doing my annual inspection of the gowns and realized that some were in dire need again. And we're doing all the right things. It's not that we're neglecting them, it's not anything like that. It's just, think of it this way. When Mary Eagle, whose gown is in the center, in 1889, when she wore that gown 126 years ago, did she have any idea that that gown would still be standing on an exhibit? Barbara, did you have any idea when you wore that? Or Gay? Did Mrs. Martineau have any idea when she had that fabulous flapper gown, would that still be on exhibit? And there lies the problem. This is the most popular exhibit we have. People come from all over to see these gowns, and several of the First Ladies alluded to this. This is our #1 exhibit. It doesn't matter what other exhibits we have, this is the #1 exhibit that people come to see. So we want to share this, and the First Ladies want to share their gowns with the public. We want to keep it out. Recently, I went to the Smithsonian and for an entire day talked with their curator of First Ladies' gowns, and they have the same problem. You know, do they take all the gowns off exhibit and put them away, or do they let the public enjoy them? So we choose to allow the gowns to stay on exhibit and share them with the public, with the people of the state of Arkansas, because after all, that's who they belong to. But what we do is we have to be smart and we have to do the best for the gowns. We have the largest collection of First Ladies' gowns outside of the Smithsonian in the country. And that is something that we should all be very, very proud of. I mean, when you stop and think about it, it's the largest collection. We have 27 gowns, soon to be 28, I hope. So, the Smithsonian right now, they only have 8 inaugural gowns. So maybe what we need to do is think about some of the older gowns, switch out and take off on exhibit. But today what we're here for is to celebrate the gowns and the First Ladies that bring them. So we're raising money for conservation, because I can tell you right now, it's a lot more money than $30. So, does anyone have any questions? That's fabulous. No questions. Well, for example, we brought up Mrs. Eagle, and we're using the best conservator. He's one of the top in the world, certainly the best in the country, and yes, he's in Indiana. His name is Harold Mailand, Textile Conservation Services. Just conserving her gown alone is anywhere between $12,000 and $15,000. We recently, June 1st, we sent Mrs. Elwilda Robinson, Estelle Adkins, and Elizabeth Little. And those 3 gowns alone is almost $40,000. So these 4 gowns, including Mrs. Eagle, is $55,000. So that's what we need to raise just for the conservation of the gowns alone. And as Gay White said, we also need new cases, new conservation for the cases. We have to have its own HVAC system. So we're talking a lot of money. Bill can probably help us on that, on the new gallery. Because what we're going to have to do, like with Mrs. Martin now, it's heavily, heavily beaded. We're going to have a new case that it lies flat if we want people to come and see it, because it's too heavy to have it standing up. Anyone else? First ladies? Is there anything else I need to cover? Bill? Yes, thank you. That's the other strategy. While talking to the Smithsonian, and we've kind of mulled this idea around too, instead of just having it, okay, all the first ladies did was go to a ball. Well, we know for a fact all of these ladies did much more than that. They were a force within their own, whether it was reading or inoculation, whatever. All of these ladies did much more than just go to a party. We want to change the force of that, and that's exactly what the Smithsonian did too. It's no longer just about a pretty party dress. We want to change the exhibit to show what these ladies did. They were much more than that. And so we want to emphasize what each woman did while she was a first lady, some of their special projects that they were behind. So that's going to really change the look of the exhibit. And when we're through here, we'll go through and look at the exhibit. And it's been brought up, I have had this question, well, why don't you put up reproductions? Well, people do not come to a museum to see reproductions. And the easiest way to answer that, if someone says to you that, the Smithsonian, the best example is the Star-Spangled Banner flag. It used to hang when you walked into the American history. They took it down and they had it conserved. And it took years to do that. And now you go in and it lays flat in a cool, dark room, sort of like our First Lady's gown. When you go to see a museum, you might drive from Harrison or El Dorado or whatever. You don't come to see a reproduction of a gown. You want to see the real thing. And that is the Old State House. That's our go. You want to see the history. You don't want to see a reproduction. And that's the way the Smithsonian feels about the Star-Spangled Banner flag. They don't put out a reproduction, nor do they put out reproductions of Martha Washington's gown. Anyone else? I'll be glad once we go to the gallery. If anybody thinks of another question, I'll be more than happy to answer. Like I said, I can't thank the ladies enough. I've worked with them for 20 plus years, and those gowns are my babies. You know, once they turn them over to me, I'm very, very close to them, and they're mine now, and I'm very protective of them. Sure, come on up.
I just wanted to emphasize, we are going to have a fabulous time October 6th at the Governor's Mansion. We'll be in and out of the Grand Hall. We'll be on the lawn. All of these First Ladies have pledged to come back for that. We'll be there again. We need you to help support this. Enjoy the mansion. Enjoy the grounds. When you look back historically at the different pictures of the grounds of the house, it has evolved through the years, through a lot of private donations and as well as the taxpayers seeing fit to make sure that we have a grand house. We have 8 acres in the city of Little Rock that is all landscaped, designed by P. Allen Smith. We go to great extent to keep that in pristine shape. You'll be blown away by how beautiful the place is, and we continue to work on that. And please come join us and support the Old State House Museum and enjoy history while it's alive. Thank you.
Thank you all so much for coming. Joellen, I believe, is available for a tour of the exhibit, and our First Ladies have agreed to hang around a little while. If anyone has any questions and would like to interview them, I believe they will be available. Thank you again for coming.